Bonjour, otherwise known as Archie from Balamori. Hello, Sned. Hello, DC audience. Welcome back once again to another Spotlight session. This time, I'm joined by none other than the newest cannon player to the roster. It is Sned. Hello, Sned.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, otherwise known as Archie from Balamori. Hello, Sned.
I've already fallen out over this interview. That's a bit mean.
You only have your boss to blame. You only have your boss to blame. Well, welcome, Sned, to the Spotlight session. So, my first question is, how did you join Disconnected?
So, it's funny because I could have been here a lot longer because when I was friends with Turtle before he decided to run this, and I did quite well in E-Prem last year for Everton, and since then he was asking me to do part of the FUT team, but also because of our pro clubs, because we used to play in an old organisation called Intice, and because of that, he had this idea of starting his own, and if I'm perfectly honest, I did not believe he was going to do it, but here he is, and here he goes. So I knew about it for a long time, and then I'd done a few sessions on the pro club side, quite a bit, and then I kind of went off because I didn't really know when I was going to get FIFA this year or stuff like that. But when I got into it, I decided to crack on and join his team on the Pro Club side for the 11 side and the VFL side. And from there, I decided I was going to get into FUT because I told myself I wasn't sure this year if I was going to commit to it, and I decided to because I quite enjoyed the game when it behaves. And yeah, that's how I've got into it. It's been on the radar the whole time. I just never really put my foot in until like last month for the FUT side anyway.
Yeah, I think the really important thing is throughout the rest of all these Spotlight sessions, everyone has different kind of views and how they almost jumped into Disconnected. And for you, I think from the Pro Club side, shows a different side of DC. And that's what we're going to explore today. So, VFL Crotone, let's talk about it. I probably butchered that name, so you can correct me.
Well, it's Crotone. You're close.
There you go. All right. Okay. Give me a little slack of it here and there. VFL Crotone, let's talk about it. Very good. It's going pretty well in terms of all the players, etc. So let's talk more into VFL Crotone then with your club. When is it for the first time you kind of joined the pro clubs community?
So I got into pro clubs all the way back in 2015, which is when I joined VFL. And if people aren't aware of what VFL is, it's basically a well, it's not semi-professional. It's just a competitive pro club site where they run all the different leagues. For VFL, it's mostly the top six, so Spain, Germany, England, etc., etc. Where you play as a team and you get 11 folk together and you play games just like you would on FUT in real life. And that's where I started. I've been doing it for 5 years now, and I've known Turtle for 3 of those. So we played before under a different management, and then I've been manager before as well. And the last time we played together, we actually got relegated, which was funny. It wasn't for me, but it was in general. And this time around, I was looking for a team, and I was a bit lazy, and I just went with who I knew, which was Turtle, which has turned out pretty well because he's had quite a solid base. Because he had an 11s team on the last FIFA, which is then carried over to this one, and most of them actually, because I was a bit worried, I won't lie, but most of them have actually got a lot better from FIFA 20 to FIFA 21, which is massive. And because of that, we've actually managed to have a really good start to the first season of Season 21, which we managed to get promoted through playoffs, which is a bit disappointing because we definitely could have went further. Yeah, a few mistakes. A lot of people don't rate clubs, but it's actually a lot harder than I think some people think, especially when you're going to have to work with people that you necessarily may not like, due to just people being paid. It's FIFA after all. We're not the most eco-friendly community, if I may say that. So I think Pro Club gets a bit trodden down on how easy it can be, but I think if people properly got into the competitive side of it, they'd think differently.
It's Sned, aka the Scottish Roy Keane, from the sounds of it.
Roy Keane. Oh no. I'm not Gary Lineker. God, no, this is not football even close. I felt out. Tony Hibbert. We'll go with Tony Hibbert. What a man, what a legend. Scores a goal once in his career. Nice testimonial.
From Roy Keane to Gary Lineker to Tony Hibbert. What Okay, let's move on then. So, let's talk Ultimate Team then, because obviously you do play Brokers, but you also play Ultimate Team. We know this from the previous DC tournament where you did pretty well. You did very well. Do you want to talk through the situation of what it was like competing in the DC tournament? You competed with the rest of the other players, and for someone that, for you as well, that is still a very good Ultimate Team player, but is a more of a Pro Clubs player. You're going into a tournament where the rest of them spend hours and hours just on Ultimate Team. You must feel a bit of pride for yourself to do so well.
Well, I am happy with it because I never really thought about going like properly going into Ultimate Team, but the way it ended up working was uh, last year I did E-Prem on a whim just because everyone else was doing it, and of course I support Everton, so I went for the Everton one. And I was actually doing really, really well. I was like fourth in the actual table until about a week before the cutoff date. And then I stopped playing for the pure fact I had exams and I was like, well, what happens, it happens. And I ended up actually qualifying, not originally through the score, but because someone pulled out. I actually, because I didn't play the last week, I ended up missing the cutoff space by one place. I ended up getting in because someone pulled out. And then through that, I actually did pretty well. I made it through I think it was the first two rounds, but I then eventually lost to the guy that ended up going to represent Everton, which it kind of sucks. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's just the better player won, which was fine. So I wasn't. Then I actually completely stopped Ultimate Team after that because I didn't see the point in playing it at that point. Um, and then I started this year, and it was alright. I wasn't sure I wanted to commit to it. And then the more I played on clubs, the more I started to enjoy the game, and then I started to enjoy it over an Ultimate Team. So I decided to try and see how I did in Weekend League, and I did pretty decent. So I ended up going for, well, the Disconnect Academy. And from that, thanks to help from everyone in it, I managed to somehow squeak my way to the final of the DC tournament. Though 100% would never have made it if it was mixed. I I only managed to do it because it was Academy on Academy until the very end.
Yeah, and I think I want to say just a thank you to you and the rest of the Academy players because, God, they are giving our boss Turtle competition because they have really stepped up previously over the past few Weekend League results and also in terms of you in the tournament and so many other Academy players. It makes our DC team so highly competitive, and I think that's the main thing. I look through the Twitter when I can, I look through other messages and people want to join our organisation, which is fantastic and great, but it's almost a situation where now we have so good players at the top levels that they are working so hard and putting so much hours into the game that they are competing so highly. And I think that you're an example of that in terms of you did very well in the tournament, like you said, for E-Premier League. Is that what you want to do again this year? Are you going to go back for E-Premier League with Everton?
Oh, 100% am I going to go for it again. Will I be successful again? It's a completely different ball game because I was very lucky last year with packs, so I had a very good team. And the problem is, I don't know if how many folk knows, when you make it through the cut phase, yeah, because you can use whatever team you want when you actually are just playing the qualifier games. But as soon as you actually qualify for the knockouts, you must use Premier League players. So, like a lot of, and then you've also got you limited to how many icons you can use. You're limited to what player ratings you can use. Now, fair enough. I think this is quite common in actual pros, but for someone like me who's not even done like any sort of thing before, I had to completely chop and change my team. I had to get players in that I'd never used before in a very short window of time, and I tried my best despite I was working two jobs at the time and uni, so I didn't have a lot of time in practice, but I was still happy how it went. But I don't know how it'll go this year as well because it is very good. And again, literally the more pros that end up in the teams, because some pros try and cherry pick their way because you can see who's in what bracket. So if Everton ends up quite quiet like it was last year, I imagine it's going to get a bit more filler with difficult people.
Yeah, and as they say, as James Rodriguez would say, up the toffees. So good luck to you in going and competing for the Premier League with Everton this year. So my final question then before we wrap up is exactly what are then your aspirations for DC this year? You've talked about the Premier League and probably going back with Everton, but in terms of yourself, in terms of your team, in terms of you as a player, what's your aspiration and goals for Disconnected?
Uh, I just want the organisation to succeed. So I want when we fully transitioned over to the new console, I really want the pro clubs 11's team to become a thing. Because right now it's not a thing because you can't really do much with how much the community's changing because of the console switches. However, once the 11 scene comes into full swing, I am really interested to see what we can do in that, because it's a completely different ballgame to VFL. It's like VFL on steroids because of the amount of people play. Um, but when it comes to Ultimate Team, all I'm going to keep doing is doing what I can and try and hit elite. I'm not going to I'm not going to get verified with that. 100% not this year unless I devoted it all my time, and even then, it's maybe a kind of a maybe thing. Uh, but literally, it's just to improve and use all, because there's so many tools you can use with during DC. You've got so many good players to go for. You've got Witt as the coach, for example. Though he's not really a coach, he does give in after you moan at him for like 2 months. He will eventually give you some training, and that's really good. But I would also really like to see more FUT players, because I feel like the more we get in, the more good ones, and I say good ones like not to dig myself down, but more actual pro level ones rather than academy. Uh, I think the better everyone else in the pro bit will get, because then they'll have more. They'll have people they know how they can message straight away to get practice games. That have more of an information sharing network within DC, and I think that kind of thing could be really really good. But it just depends on how where Witt and Turtle want to take that. But that's what I would love to see.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating in terms of growing that team ethic. When I'm speaking to everyone, to have an important team ethic is great for an organisation to succeed. And I think you mentioned as well in terms of the players, the academy players, they are stepping up to their game. So you might find that there may be a switch in terms of more pros, more academy. I don't know. I'm just the man that sets up a camera and speaks in front of you. But in terms of what I'm seeing from the tournaments and weekend league results, we're doing some good stuff. And there's still very early on in FIFA. And we can't wait till Christmas dubs come as well, because that'll be even better for weekend league.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's like what I'm saying. The people we've got now are really good. Mikey's fantastic. Jordan's fantastic. I mean, even ZJ, even though he's academy, he's definitely doing the best. And though I may have beat him in the tournament, it was very, very lucky. Because it's just the game. And he's a really good player, and he's shown it by getting elite for the first time. I don't know if it's his first time, but he's the only academy player to get elite, and that says a lot. Um, but what I mean is that just by getting generally more in, I feel it'll be a bigger network to work with, and with more people on board, I think it'll be much easier to achieve goals, because there'll be more people to build each other up. But again, it can be a wee bit iffy, because I mean, personalities clash at the same time. We all know the FIFA community isn't exactly the most friendly at times, especially when after a bad loss. But you never know. Maybe we'll get someone good enough to make you a decent player one day.
Don't look at me. Anyway, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for sitting down this spotlight session.
No worries, man. Thank you for having me.
So, once again, thank you very much to Sned for sitting down here on this spotlight session. Please make sure to check out our earlier upload at 5 o'clock, where we made to sit down and interview Lawson to see what he was like about the Madden side of Disconnected. So, we're coming to the end of our spotlight sessions. Next week will be our final 2 episodes. Please make sure to check out our next episodes, which feature our PS4 player, Sivori, and also the man that wanted to save his interview till last, people call him the GOAT, Mikey. We'll hope to sit down with Mikey and get some conversation out of him and see what his thoughts are on DC and his aspirations and goals going forward. But until then, thank you very much for watching this video, and as always, big up DC!